because it was last moment. Anyway, Ewa Cwirko Godycha. So like on last Sunday, the last speaker, but not least by all means, is somebody who represents this more recent immigration from Poland. Ewa left as a child, as a school child, and her parents had to leave for political reasons, and they were very involved, combating, fighting the regime under which was Poland, and they continued, the parents continued this activity here, not fighting against the English, no. So Ewa will explain it all, and Ewa will also tell you about her own involvement in all sorts of community actions, which I benefit from, admire. I also must say that, whenever I ask Ewa for some advice or help, she's always there. Also, some surplus plants from her garden decorating mine, and I'm very happy. So over to Ewa Cwirko Godycha.
Okay, hi. I will try to be brief, but it's basically my personal journey. I thought it's the simplest thing to start with my arrival. It's not that recent. I actually arrived in 1978 because my mother married an Englishman. Both my parents, original parents, are not in Poland because in 1968, for political reasons, they were put in prison as political prisoners, and my father had a death sentence, and my mother was also my dog was given away. I had to be given to the nuns for 6 months, and both my parents, after they finished their sentences, my father's death sentence was commuted, and so he also came out, but the marriage didn't survive because it's something pretty difficult to cope with. So both of them divorced, and they didn't want that much to take part in life. So in Poland, my mother wanted to leave, and she eventually did, meeting an Englishman and marrying him, and then bringing me along. I was a small child who didn't want to leave. I felt very Polish, felt very strange here, especially as I ended up in the East End of London. In my school, there were no Polish children. It's very different now. So people did look at me differently. It was very strange to be here. It was a very different feeling, different school. The school was fun. Polish school was horrendous, as I think most Polish children will attest to even now. My father was Giles Hart, who eventually was very involved in the Polish Solidarity movement. He was very, very English, very British. Although he was born in Sudan, both his parents were his mother was a debutante, his father was an English professor. He was extremely English. He was really surprised I didn't speak English, expected me to speak. And it took me about 2 years because ending up in the East End of London, I did not want to speak with an East End accent. So did my O-levels and my A-levels. I did my O-level Polish by myself. Although I attended Polish Saturday school, I still didn't use them to do the O-level. I did it by myself, got an A. Polish A-level I also did by a correspondence course, and felt really strange here, didn't really feel I belonged. I felt very Polish. When martial law was declared in Poland, I was 16. Giles, my stepfather, was very involved in the Polish Solidarity campaign. They already did a lot of the stuff, sent stuff to Poland. All of this was for him very important. But I was only 16, and I only woke up basically after martial law was declared, where about 500 people ended up outside the Polish embassy. There was a vigil, 3 crosses like in Gdańsk shipyard were erected, and the police allowed us to stay 24 hours a day. We were guarded by the police. We were allowed to use the Royal Architectural Society to go to the toilet. Everybody was very kind to us. But so that was my awakening as a Polish person. Because by then my mother and I spoke half Polish, half English, and I then made a decision that either we speak English or we speak Polish, and not a sort of broken language. So it's pretty tricky. I got involved with the Polish Solidarity campaign. I remember when Denis Healey, who was a British politician, Labour politician, appeared in Parliament in a sweatshirt with Solidarność on it. And after that, I mean, we did sell T-shirts and sweatshirts and various other Solidarity memorabilia. We suddenly, in one go, received 1,000 requests. So the house was absolutely upside down. I was part of the demonstration on the 20th of December in London, where 20,000 people marched. I sold key rings and Polish Solidarity little badges. My husband, current husband, was also there as a participant, because he arrived 2 weeks before martial law, and martial law was declared, and the Polish diaspora was given exceptional leave to remain. It wasn't immediate, but it was pretty quick. So they were allowed to stay, but there were only about 1,000 of them. So it wasn't that much of a problem for the British. However, they did not want to grant them refugee status, just exceptional leave to remain. I continued being involved. It was important to me. In school, I took the subject politics, because you could choose your subjects for your O-levels, and I chose politics, and there were only 2 girls in my school who chose politics. The rest were boys, but it was all because of the political involvement of my parents and then here. There are various things that you can say about the Polish community. We were not involved in the Polish community. We were specifically involved in what was happening with Solidarność, and not that. Not part of we lived in East London, not West London. So there were very few Poles around us. So it was difficult. Didn't have Polish friends. Just went, to my step-parents, stepfathers, his family. Not that good. Then I went to university and discovered Zrzeszenie Studentów i Absolwentów Polskich w Wielkiej Brytanii. There was an association of students which was actually formed in Palestine in 48 or 44, I'm not exactly sure, which went on weekends together, and they went to different places, but once a year they went to Penrose, which is also very similar to one of the speakers previously, because Penrose was basically a Polish camp where Polish airmen stayed after my links don't work. Polish airmen stayed after the war, and it became a Polish community site. So we started going there. We sang to the people who stayed there. They were always sort of crying, where young people were very kind to them. And from there, we actually looked around. My husband, now my partner, then started looking around and looking at properties. And we bought a little chapel and converted it to a house. And everywhere we went, everybody who we spoke to said, "Oh, you're Polish. We know some Polish people." And they've got a lot, but they worked really hard for it. So there was no resentment. There was just curiosity. They also understood that the Polish history a bit, because there was a movement in Wales where they were considering independence from Britain, or were fighting because they were trying to drown valleys in Wales to create water reservoirs for bringing drinking water to West Midlands. So a group was formed. It was a very small group, but when you read the history of that, you suddenly find that the history professor was Polish, and he was telling them about the Polish fight for freedom and the struggle. So there is a connection there as well. I've got a couple of, if it's going to work, I put some links if you want to have a look at some things from the various things, but my links don't seem to work. Let's have a look. This is working. Yes, this is working. Okay, my links, that's it. It's distracting me if it's not working. Okay, so I was always very socially aware. So when I was 16, I was counting votes during an election, because you could look at the hands of people who were counting and make sure they were counting right. Like the recent election, you have people there that go and check. So I was one of those. And then when with my husband, I moved to West London, there were various things happening around, but we've got HS2 happening in Britain. And that's going to have a big impact on this area, big impact around us. So I started to get involved again. I can't sit still where something is happening and there is nobody to basically get involved and make things happen. So my husband spent many, many weeks writing petitions. We were petitioners to the House of Commons and the House of Lords. And out of that, we actually won a few things. So it's worth getting involved. It's worth being part of it. What we also discovered, that one of the Ealing officers, who had a very, very British name, or really Irish, Nick O'Donnell, started suddenly speaking Polish to us because his mother was Polish. And because of that, he was also much more helpful to us, which is always a good thing. So I became part of a resistance group to HS2 and got involved in the local community. We created, as a group with local residents, Old Oak and Park Royal Neighbourhood Forum here. And I look after their Facebook page. And because of my success with that, another group in Ealing called Ealing Matters have asked me to look after their Facebook page as well. So I got involved with Ealing Matters, which is a wider group in Ealing. So I've probably gone over time. And if anybody would like to ask me any questions, you're welcome. I've put links in the chat. And I have another film. I think if it's going to work, I can post as well. I think that's it. I've made it shorter because it's we overrun so much. Overrun.
Okay.
Yeah, fantastic. Ewa, and the Polish COVID help group. I think you helped with this.
Well, I've created together with Anya, which is basically a Facebook group, but the only thing we post is information. But I got involved with a British Ealing COVID group because it was there, they were asking for help. So I helped coordinate this distribution of PPE because they didn't have it, and people privately were donating face masks, gloves, aprons, everything, and various drivers were driving around and delivering, and then my husband also did that. So yes, I mean, we are part of this community. We want this community to function, so there is every reason to get involved. I know all my local councillors, I know our MP, so we have connections because we try to talk to people. I mean, during HS2, we had a visit from the MP, councillors, we had a minister in the house who wanted to see where the compound is going to be 20 meters from the house. But it's all because of getting involved. And actually, it is worth it because you can change things. We won the fact that they didn't destroy the parks around us. For example, they're now destroying the scrubs because the people from the scrubs did not get involved earlier.
Yes, yes. Yes, they overlooked the seriousness. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I was trying to warn them, but they weren't having any of it. But they were going to just. We have 3 green areas
Yeah.
which they were going to destroy, and they didn't.
Wormwood scraps, if anybody is interested. That's a huge open space which has been, most of it is, I mean, it's all affected because the ecosystem is affected. So yeah, it's just terrible. It's criminal almost. Anyway, we can go on.
Okay,
Yes.
I think I'm done. I think it's enough. Everybody's been here so long that I think everybody needs a break. And you've got some links if you want to have a look at them.
Yes, so everybody can copy the links if they want to,
Yes.
into their documents. That's the way forward. I will click. So thank you very much, Ewa.